Our story begins in 2030, on a street in a place called Lucheng, where a small meeting was taking place. A young guy was trying to borrow 5 million yuan. The man who was going to grant the loan lit a cigarette and sighed, explaining that the interest rates were high. That man was named Zhang Yang. He was the leader of the Dahai Gang, an underground organization in Lucheng. The boy knew that, but he didn't care much. Zhang Yang explained that the daily interest would be 4%. In the end, the young man would have to pay at least 7 million yuan as a promissory note. The boy then offered the deed to his house. Zhang Yang saw that the house was a bit old and worth at most 4 million, so it wasn't enough to make a deal. But the boy was desperate, begging for help and declaring that he would pay everything back once he got the money in full. Zhang Yang figured the boy should at least give him 3.5 million yuan in value, since anything above that would mean a loss for him. He already knew the boy was addicted to gambling. The young man quickly became excited, promising to repay Zhang Yang as soon as possible. The man declared that if he didn't pay 4.9 million within 4 months, the house would be used as collateral. He wanted the boy to write the promissory note, and the funds would be released within 3 days. The boy said he had one condition. 10 minutes later, he left the place quite happy. A certain amount had already been transferred to his account. He thought Zhang Yang was an idiot. The apocalypse was coming, so he had no intention of paying back that ridiculous sum. He was going to prepare himself for a better life than the one he had before. In his previous life, a terrifying natural disaster struck the blue planet, causing a drastic change in Earth's ecosystem. Strange radiation caused the global average temperature to reach 50 degrees Celsius. Humanity entered a horrifying 3-day apocalypse of extreme heat. Meanwhile, Zhang Yang believed he had made a good deal. He assumed the boy truly was a gambling addict, even accepting higher interest, just to have the money deposited immediately. One of Zhang Yang's employees found it strange. Since the boy's house was worth more than 4 million, they had forced him to lower it to 3.5 million, so it seemed like some kind of trick. But Zhang Yang had seen all kinds of gamblers before. Some would sell anything, even their own wives. He told his employee to contact the casino to manipulate the results, and check whether the boy had another house. The scene shifted back to the young man, who found it amusing that Zhang Yang had advanced the money just because of a simple interest increase. He had taken out many high-interest loans throughout Lucheng. No one would ever recover the money now in his hands. He clearly remembered how the land had dried up, vegetation had withered, creatures had mutated, and order had collapsed. Resources became extremely scarce, and people resorted to terrible means just to obtain a bit of material to survive. Possessing resources was the same as possessing supreme wealth. Even former billionaires or big celebrities had to beg and crawl for a single sausage or even a glass of water. Otherwise, they would die. He had been reborn, so he still had time before the disaster arrived. He could prepare for it. Then he saw some girls being served at a shop. They wanted to buy the legendary Shugao assassin, said to be a luxury item, even more expensive than the most premium ice cream. In his previous life, he had always struggled to afford it, yet he still bought it for Lu Wanqing. In his view, that had been nothing but a waste of money. He didn't even like thinking about it. It made his heart ache. Anger rose inside him, and he rushed toward the attendant, asking her to give him 10 of every type of ice cream available. The girls were shocked that he was going to pay such a high bill. The attendant noticed he was choosing the most expensive ones, yet he didn't look rich at all. She asked if he was serious, warning him that the shop only sold high-quality ice cream. 10 units of each category would cost more than 20,000 yuan per category. One girl nearby doubted him and said that if he could really pay, she would bow to him in front of everyone. He showed a Machiavellian smile and asked if she was serious. She thought he was just trying to cause trouble. He told her he was giving her a chance to back out of the problem she had created for herself, declaring that she really would bow. Irritated, she watched as he showed his account balance and told the attendant he would take everything. The attendant asked him to wait while she consulted the manager. Soon, the manager arrived. His name was Fei, and he wanted to know what the young man needed. He explained that he wanted the manager to calculate the total price of all the ice cream in the store. The manager was confused. What kind of big shot was buying the entire stock at once? He revealed that the total stock that day was worth around 1 million yuan. The young man thought it wasn't that expensive. In any case, he would have plenty of ice cream to eat during the apocalypse. He told manager Fei that he would deposit 300,000 yuan first, and gave them an address for delivery. He also offered to let the girls choose any ice cream they wanted to try, making it clear that Chen Xiao, that was his name, was paying for them, even showing off the cash he had. The girls were thrilled, thinking he looked even more handsome with so much money. However, Chen Xiao reminded the girl who had mocked him that he was still waiting for her to bow, and she wouldn't get any ice cream. Without further hesitation, she bowed. Chen Xiao assumed she shouldn't be so arrogant next time. The scene then shifted to him in a park, tasting the ice cream and realizing that the so-called assassin ice cream truly had top-tier flavor and texture. Then he used his ability. He could preserve items in their current state, meaning he would always have fresh ice cream whenever he wanted. With that, he could even invite any model to hang out later without worry. He already had these abilities. They had been reborn with him. Originally, such powers had only appeared after the apocalypse, but this time he had them beforehand. In any case, it would be his greatest trump card. He concluded that he needed to build a secure house with refrigerated storage, weapons, and energy reserves. At that moment, Li Huancheng called him, clearly not a good time. She had appeared after his parents passed away, acting like a savior. He admitted to himself that he had been foolish back then. In the end, she only wanted the inheritance his parents had left behind. He remembered how calculating she was, trying to seize his apartment, and asked asking him to marry her, draining him like a vampire. Chen Xiao also remembered how Lu Wancheng had once plotted against him, revealing that he possessed special materials. Another man had pinned him to the ground. Chen Xiao had risked everything to keep her safe, yet she chose to rely on a stronger man, offering Chen Xiao up like a plate of food. In the end, he didn't even have a whole corpse left. This time, Chen Xiao decided he would take revenge on her. Next, the scene shifts to a luxury hotel, where she wanted to know how he was doing. He had answered her call, and she even called him love, telling him she had lost her gold necklace. Chen Xiao said he would buy her a new one, then corrected himself, saying he would buy 10, not just one. She found it strange how suddenly generous he had become. He explained that he had made some money after investing in virtual currencies, so he wanted to spend it on her. She suspected he might have fallen for a scam, but he said there was no way to know. He could make money in the next round. He planned to take out a loan to invest even more, but the loan required a witness, so he asked for her help, offering her 5% if she agreed to go with him. Meanwhile, the old man who was waiting for her was already getting irritated by the delay. She sweet-talked the old man, telling him to wait a little longer and that she would be ready soon. Spending the night with the old man earned her 5,000, but she was thrilled at the idea of making 50,000 just by being Chen Xiao's witness. She also doubted he could trick her. The scene then shifts to Chen Xiao, who was eager to meet her. It was time to build his fortress. The scene changes to him speaking with a professional, requesting the construction of an impenetrable stronghold. The windows had to be bulletproof, with invisible anti-theft mesh, reinforced walls, and earthquake resistance. The roof needed to be covered with solar panels and other equipment. The professional was shocked by the level of detail Chen Xiao wanted in his renovation. It would take a month to rebuild everything. A house resistant to impacts and equipped with a life support system. The professional was stunned, assuming Chen Xiao had watched too many science fiction movies. Seeing the man's reaction, Chen Xiao asked whether he was incapable of doing it, since he had specifically sought him out after hearing he had designed bunkers for billionaires. The professional explained that Chen Xiao's requirements were highly sophisticated. In any case, he preferred to let Chen Xiao remain paranoid about an apocalypse. After all, he would be making money either way. Chen Xiao showed the amount in his bank account, stating that he would deposit 1 million yuan up front, and the final payment would be determined by the professional. The man was startled by the idea of setting the final price himself, believing he had found a rich fool and achieved financial freedom. Chen Xiao reiterated that he only wanted the highest quality materials. The professional assured him not to worry, guaranteeing that the fortress would be as solid as a rock. Chen Xiao remained calm. The apocalypse was coming, and by then there would be no final payment to collect. The money would be worthless anyway. At that moment, he needed to secure supplies, medicine, and food. The real problem would be dealing with human nature after order collapsed. For that reason, he wanted firearms, which were much harder to obtain. He sent a message to someone who seemed to supply that kind of thing. The person replied with an address, instructing him to arrive at 8 o'clock at night, without delay. When he reached the location, he suddenly saw a girl running, with several men chasing her. She didn't give up and quickly hid behind Chen Xiao. One of the men shouted that she had betrayed them on their own territory, implying she was tired of living. The girl begged Chen Xiao to save her. He recognized her. Her name was Li, and couldn't understand why she was in a place like that. The men grabbed her, and she cried desperately. Chen Xiao remembered her well. Her full name was Li Yu. Back in elementary school, she had been treated like a goddess, with all the boys drooling over her. One of the men pulled her hair, demanding she hand over the money. Chen Xiao, acting like a hopeless simp, told them to let her go. One of the men grew irritated and walked toward Chen Xiao, intending to teach him a lesson for trying to play hero again. But Chen Xiao dodged the attack, grabbed the man's hand, twisted it, and quickly knocked him down with a strike. Suddenly, a system panel appeared out of nowhere, displaying that intense negative emotions such as fear, severe pain, and anger had been detected. The negative emotion harvesting system had been successfully activated. Chen Xiao found it bizarre. He had never seen anything like that in his previous life. Meanwhile, another man pulled Li Yu by the hair and warned Chen Xiao not to take another step, or he would kill her. Just then, someone leapt forward and smashed a brick into that man, declaring that they had no shame harassing a girl like that. A group of thugs rushed toward him, saying he had asked for it. However, the newcomer was good at fighting, and Chen Xiao joined him. Within seconds, they knocked down all the scumbags who had been oppressing Li Yu. Chen Xiao ordered them to get lost, and the men ran away, crying from the beating, as they experienced negative emotions, fear, panic, despair, humiliation, and pain. Chen Xiao gained permission to expand his spatial storage. The system informed him that the more he harvested, the stronger he would become. Chen Xiao found it quite interesting. Li Yu admitted she hadn't expected to see him there, and thanked him for helping her. He helped her up, asking if she was hurt, and gave her something to cover herself. She gratefully explained that she needed to leave because she had something to deal with. The man who had appeared to help introduced himself, revealing his name was Mu Chang. Chen Xiao immediately recognized him. This was the Mu Chang he had been looking for. Mu Chang, realizing Chen Xiao was the buyer, commented on what a coincidence it was. He started rambling about Heavenly King, Earth Tiger, and other strange phrases like some eccentric salesman. Chen Xiao then claimed that Mu Chang was 250 years old, which left Mu Chang completely stunned. The surge of mixed negative emotions allowed Chen Xiao to harvest even more. After obtaining what he wanted, Chen Zhao said it was just a joke and shouldn't be taken seriously. Mu Chang asked Chen Zhao to follow him, but admitted he didn't like that joke very much. The scene shifted to a more secluded place, where Mu Chang showed him a revolver. He explained that it was Russian-made, sturdy and durable, but didn't come with many bullets, so Chen Zhao should use it sparingly. Since he had been impressed by his client's fighting skills, Mu Chang decided to give him a friendship bonus, considering that they were building a relationship. Chen Zhao felt grateful for that. He grew anxious, wondering whether he would get a free suppressor, a warranty box, or maybe an extra box of bullets. Mu Chang was stunned, trying to understand whether Chen Zhao even knew what a friendship gift meant. On the black market, people paid double for that item, yet his client was asking for guarantees and extra bonuses. He was trembling with anger. He asked Chen Zhao whether he thought he was buying household appliances, and whether he'd prefer to get robbed instead. Once again, Chen Zhao gained points from the negative emotions he provoked in his seller. He quickly tried to calm Mu Chang down, asking him to forget that conversation, and stating that he would transfer the amount Mu Chang had previously quoted. The scene then shifted to Lu Wancheng. She was wearing a stunning red dress as she met Chen Zhao. She wanted to know why he had taken so long to arrive, and hoped that what he had asked of her involved no risks. Chen Zhao questioned why she thought she could be deceived. In the end, she remembered how that fool had once almost sold his own blood just to buy her a handbag. She believed she was safe. He couldn't possibly trick her. She signed the document, and the loan officer even complimented her signature, saying it was beautiful. However, he secretly believed she was nothing but a fool. By signing that paper, the debt would legally become hers. When she failed to repay it, he would make her his servant. The contract she had signed would serve as the final payment for Chen Zhao's fortress. After she signed, the scene shifted to Chen Zhao meeting the professional in charge of building the fortress. The man assured him not to worry, 25% of the work was already complete, and all the materials had arrived, reinforced according to the highest military standards. Chen Zhao handed over his card, and the man was clearly eager to get more work from him. It was easy money in his eyes. Then the scene shifted to Chen Zhao sitting on his sofa. The local news reported that everyone would be affected by unprecedented, extremely strong solar eruption activity. Something powerful and continuous would keep striking the world. The news urged people to prepare and protect themselves, as temperatures would break historical records. Chen Zhao calmly cleaned his revolver. The moment had finally arrived. The scene shifted again to a girl standing on her balcony. She could barely endure the heat. It was unbearable. Her roommate across the way felt the same. A man with a megaphone announced to the neighbors that this was deadly weather. Temperatures would continue rising, and there would be supply shortages. Water and electricity would be rationed. Everyone should stock up as quickly as possible. This was the last batch of goods he had. He was a vendor. He was delighted because he was making a lot of money, but he didn't know, just like Chen Zhao, that soon money would be worthless. He was getting rich for nothing. The girls went downstairs to buy fruit, but found the prices outrageous. The vendor noticed they had melons and became excited. He even offered them a slice of his melon to show how sweet it was, giving them a 20% discount. He invited them to his house, saying he had air conditioning if they wanted to cool off. They politely declined, saying they had already bought an air conditioner. He kept pestering them, recommending they buy even more and stock up on everything they could. Then two men appeared. An old man asked for a discount on water, but since he was a man, the vendor refused to lower the price by even a cent. Chen Zhao observed everything closely. He knew that vendor. His name was Li Dafu. Chen Zhao clearly remembered an incident. Once, Li Dafu had seen him pick something up from the ground and immediately grabbed him, shouting to everyone that there was a thief caught red-handed. Chen Zhao had explained that he wasn't a thief. He had only picked it up to put it back where it belonged, but Li Dafu refused to believe him. Judging by appearances, he assumed Chen Zhao was poor because his clothes were dirty. Everyone began staring at Chen Zhao with judgmental eyes. Thanks to Li Dafu's deliberate accusation, people believed he was starving and stealing. It deeply humiliated him. He wasn't a thief and had stolen nothing. Now Chen Zhao noticed a bag of potato chips priced outrageously high. He asked Li Dafu why it cost so much, and whether those chips could prevent a heart attack to justify such a price. Li Dafu quickly grew furious, telling him that if he couldn't afford it, he shouldn't hang around causing trouble. Chen Zhao harvested more points from the negative emotions he provoked. Seeing how easy it was to gain points from Li Dafu, he asked whether the man could sleep at night, making so much money off stolen goods. Li Dafu thought Chen Zhao had gone mad from the heat, and threatened to beat him. Provocatively, Chen Zhao told him to calm down and asked if he had been suffering from insomnia, weak knees, and night sweats lately. Li Dafu admitted he had experienced some of that. Then he suddenly realized there might be a problem in his warehouse. Chen Zhao mocked him, saying his yintang, the area between his eyebrows, looked dark, and that his eyes seemed unfocused, like a deficiency. Li Dafu grew enraged, insisting he had no such condition, and ordering Chen Zhao to leave. Chen Zhao grabbed a lollipop, turned his back, and said the man should relax. Anger was damaging his body. At this rate, he would die young. He tossed a coin to pay for the lollipop, which only made Li Dafu angrier, earning Chen Zhao even more points. The scene shifted to nighttime. In his past life, Chen Zhao had let everyone manipulate him, swallowing his anger. But this time, he would make them all pay back with interest. He could also expand his power further. The points he had gained from Li Dafu would be very useful. He began consuming the negative emotions he had accumulated, gaining an additional 200 cubic meters of storage space. Then he started using his ability. Next, the scene shifts to the morning. Li Dafu was walking straight to his shop when he was completely shocked. His entire entire stock had simply vanished. He began to break down because of it, generating a lot of negative emotion points for Chen Xiao, who was calmly watching everything through the security cameras while drinking a soda. Li Dafu was collapsing, crying heavily, practically wishing for a miracle that would make everything reappear. The customers didn't understand what was going on and didn't know what they could do. After all, they needed supplies. Some elderly women had already started spreading rumors. One of them claimed she had seen a dark shadow floating around the night before. When Li Dafu heard that, he became furious, unable to believe he might be haunted. His intense negative emotions kept giving Chen Xiao even more points, and Chen Xiao decided to head to the warehouse to witness all the crying in person. He grabbed a bag of chips and started eating, thinking he should add a little more fuel to the fire and stir up more emotion. He opened the bag and loudly commented on the smell, clearly trying to get Li Dafu's attention. Li Dafu quickly looked at him and realized it was packaging from his own stock. He grew furious again. Chen Xiao mockingly asked whether Li Dafu's potato chips could prevent heat stroke or something, since they were so expensive. The way he said it was like punching that shameless fat man in the face. Li Dafu snatched the chips from his hand, demanding to know how he had gotten them. He accused Chen Xiao of stealing his goods and being arrogant inside his warehouse. When Li Dafu grabbed him by the collar, Chen Xiao demanded proof for such accusations and said he should take responsibility for what he was saying. Chen Xiao even admitted he felt a little pity for him and left the rest of the half-eaten bag for Li Dafu, acknowledging that his supermarket really was spotless. Li Dafu was furious. The day before, Chen Xiao had insulted him heavily, and now that his goods had disappeared, Chen Xiao was there again, worse yet, eating, so he concluded that Chen Xiao must be the thief. In any case, Li Dafu just wanted someone to blame. His anger kept generating points for Chen Xiao, who then looked at the crowd and asked what they thought. The owner of the establishment seemed to believe he alone had the right to sell potato chips. After losing his own stock, he was now trying to blame someone uninvolved. Everyone began taking out their phones to record. They declared that Li Dafu was talking nonsense and supported Chen Xiao, making Li Dafu realize Chen Xiao had suddenly become stronger. Chen Xiao even invited the supermarket owner to search his house to prove he hadn't taken anything. However, if the stressed-out fat man found nothing, Chen Xiao demanded the emergency generator from the back door as compensation. Li Dafu, overwhelmed with stress, agreed to search his house. Certain Chen Xiao couldn't fake anything. He thought Chen Xiao must be dreaming if he expected to get the generator. The scene then shifted to Chen Xiao's home. Accompanied by several people and Li Dafu, he saw that Chen Xiao's house looked like a rich man's home. He couldn't understand how Chen Xiao had suddenly become so wealthy. Every detail was impeccable. His clothes and food were top quality. Li Dafu even found a chest full of gold. Chen Xiao kept a close eye on that shameless fat man, asking if he had searched enough and whether he wanted to tear up the floorboards as well. Li Dafu hurried away, saying it wasn't necessary, and that he would ask around elsewhere. He had generated more points due to the overwhelming embarrassment he felt. However, Chen Xiao didn't let him leave, reminding him about the generator. Everyone was there as witnesses. Li Dafu couldn't go back on his word. Li Dafu played dumb, pretending not to know which generator Chen Xiao meant. He told Chen Xiao to let it go and step back, but Chen Xiao said the fat man hadn't thought things through when he tried to frame him. This once again earned him more points, since Li Dafu was growing impatient. The crowd demanded that the supermarket owner keep his word. Furious, Li Dafu stepped toward Chen Xiao, thinking he was being arrogant. Chen Xiao calmly grabbed his hand and quickly threatened to twist it, gaining even more points by making him feel pain. Under threat, Li Dafu promised to bring the generator immediately. Chen Xiao urged him to hurry, warning that if the temperature rose later, Li Dafu wouldn't be able to leave. Chen Xiao already knew that power would be restored in a few days, and didn't care what Li Dafu would do once he was left without a generator. Suddenly, Liu Wancheng called Chen Xiao, saying that for the past 2 days people had been following her. She believed they were debt collectors. She reminded him that he had said it was only a witness signature, so she didn't understand why they were pursuing her. She wanted the truth, because the Dahai gang was after her. Chen Xiao told her to trust him a little more. He had already done a lot for her, and wasn't lying. He even pretended to feel hurt by her words. Deep down though, he was pleased that the gang was so impatient. It was even more than he had expected. He asked whether they knew where she lived or had said anything to her. Lu Wanqing explained they didn't know her address yet. She had taken several alleys to shake them off. She just wanted to know what was happening, and asked him not to deceive her. Chen Xiao told her not to overthink it, suggesting they might have mistaken her for someone else. Then he showed her a beautifully prepared meal on the table, leaving her stunned. She couldn't believe he could have such good food in such hard times. He also showed that it wasn't just good food. He had plenty of soda in stock as well. She was shocked and wanted to know how he had obtained all that, believing he had become rich. He drank the soda in front of her, suggesting she should have one too in such hot weather. He tasted some salmon, leaving her speechless. She truly wanted to eat salmon like that. He asked whether she had enough food at home. Lu Wancheng, who wasn't foolish at all, said she was a little scared of living alone and still felt the gang was after her. She suggested staying at his house for a few days, saying she could keep him company and help him relax. She complained about how unbearably hot her own home was. Chen Xiao remembered well that she had once refused to give him her address, and never let him visit, always being mysterious. He promised to pick her up at night if she wanted, once it cooled down, if she had changed her mind and was willing to give him her address. The clever Liu Wancheng said that was all in the past. Now he was her boyfriend, so he needed to protect her. Without hesitation, she sent him her address. Chen Xiao told her to wait calmly at home. Liu Wancheng thought thought she could manipulate him, as if he were still the fool he had been in his past life. Chen Xiao clearly remembered how she once thought herself superior, and wouldn't even let him approach the gate of her residential complex. Suddenly, a shameless old woman with a child at her side started knocking on Chen Xiao's door, demanding that he open it. It was old lady Wang. He answered and asked what she wanted. Wang was incredibly brazen, saying his house was nice, and that her air conditioner had broken down. The kid couldn't stand the heat. Since they were neighbors, she had already stuck her head inside his house, acting as if they should help each other, asking him to let her come in and stay for a while. Instead, he slapped the old woman across the face to stop her from being foolish. He clearly remembered when he was young, collecting plastic bottles with his mother. Wang had pointed at them, calling them beggars, and even summoned security to drive them away, and now she wanted his help. Wang became furious, saying that had happened many years ago, and that he shouldn't hold a grudge, since nothing else had happened after that. He didn't care about the old woman yapping like a chihuahua, and slammed the door in her face, declaring that he would relax and enjoy his air conditioning. The shameless old hag kept banging on his door, calling him despicable, and saying it was a good thing his parents had died early. Her anger generated even more points for him. Then he removed the SIM card from his phone, and called the Dahai gang using another number. He told them he knew Lu Wancheng's address, and mentioned that she lived alone, making her an easy target. In his mind, the show was only just beginning. The scene shifted to Lu Wancheng. She was excited, believing she would soon move into Chen Xiao's air-conditioned room. She was already imagining him practically worshipping her. She lit a cigarette and started smoking. Suddenly, she heard someone banging on her door. She assumed it was Chen Xiao, and wondered why he had arrived so early, until she saw something that horrified her completely. The Dahai gang had arrived in full force. She asked how they knew where she lived, but the gang leader immediately slapped her aside and told her to move and be smart, demanding payment. She was confused, since the money actually belonged to Chen Xiao, and she believed he had tricked her. The leader made it clear. Her signature was on the document. Whoever signs pays. He ordered his men to search her house for valuables. Desperate, she begged them to stop confiscating her belongings, and said she would call Chen Xiao to clear up the misunderstanding. The scene shifted to the gang leader lounging on her sofa as if he owned the place, with various pieces of jewelry and trinkets laid out on the table. She was extremely worried while he examined everything, assuming it was worthless junk, not even enough to cover the interest. After coming all the way there and suffering in the terrible heat, he wasn't about to leave empty-handed. Lu Wancheng again insisted they should go after Chen Xiao since he had taken the money. She added that he had plenty of resources and suggested they wait for him to come pick her up so they could demand payment from him directly. She tried calling him, but the phone said the number was unavailable. She tried several more times, but he didn't answer, and she grew increasingly anxious. Awkwardly, she told the men that Chen Xiao might be busy, which was why he hadn't answered. The gang leader thought she was incredibly stupid. It was obvious Chen Xiao had betrayed her. He had tricked her into signing, so the debt was hers. Completely shocked, she was grabbed by the hair. Lu Wancheng begged him to let her go and insisted he should go after Chen Xiao. Instead, he dragged her away. Meanwhile, Chen Xiao was calmly sipping fine wine from a glass. He only wanted Lu Wancheng to taste the apocalypse for herself. After Lu Wancheng lost her dignity, the gang leader asked about what she had said earlier, about Chen Zhao's house being full of supplies. He wanted to know what valuable things were there. Crying, she explained that Chen Zhao had air conditioning, cold drinks, and plenty of food. The leader told her to contact him, but she said she couldn't reach him. Thinking about what she had told him, the Dahai gang leader believed he had hooked a big fish and decided to go after Chen Zhao. Realizing Chen Xiao had deceived her, Li Wanqing declared he would die a horrible death. The scene shifted to a group heading to Chen Xiao's house. That damned old lady Wang had snitched about where he lived, claiming he was a monster who wouldn't even offer water. She was nothing but a jealous old woman who had humiliated him and his mother in the past, yet now wanted to enjoy good food and air conditioning. In the end, she would receive a share from the gang for exposing his address. Wang was delighted that Zhang was willing to give her a cut. She imagined Chen Xiao crying, apologizing, and handing over his house. The vicious old woman wanted to ruin him, calling him arrogant, even though she had humiliated him and his mother before. Zhang looked at Chen Xiao's house and sensed something was wrong. One of his men said he would break down the door, but there was something on the ground. He was suddenly electrocuted and collapsed. The others were confused about what had happened, but when one of them touched the fallen man, he was shocked as well. It only showed how foolish they were, leaving Zhang, Wang, and the rest stunned. There was a loudspeaker outside. From inside the house, Chen Xiao casually hummed a tune. Suddenly, more people were electrocuted. Zhang and Wang were terrified. Chen Xiao, holding a microphone inside his house, calmly told them they were lucky. They had stepped directly onto the electric security grid with only 1 foot. Zhang shouted for him to stop playing around and pay his debt, claiming it was a matter of principle. Wang, the meddlesome old woman, added that he had money to renovate his house, but not to repay debts, saying his parents had raised a monster. While they complained outside, Chen Xiao relaxed with a popsicle. He informed Zhang that the market price of his apartment was 4 million, more than enough to cover Zhang's 3.5 million. He also reminded him that Lu Wancheng's debt should be collected from her. He had nothing to do with it. Zhang was furious, but Chen Xiao claimed he was a reasonable man and wanted to make a fair deal. He warned that if Zhang continued to bother him, he wouldn't remain so polite. At that moment, he pressed a button, electrocuting Zhang's men again. They cried out that they couldn't endure any more shocks, which earned Chen Xiao even more negative emotions emotion points. Finally, Zhang decided to retreat with his men, making it clear that the Dahai gang would not let Chen Xiao off so easily. Wang was terrified, realizing she had messed with the wrong person. She stood there alone, staring at Chen Xiao's house. The scene shifted to the next morning. It was 52 degrees outside, except for Chen Xiao, who was comfortably inside his home. Watching the news, he saw reports of numerous deaths caused by heat stroke. Authorities were advising everyone to stay indoors. Suddenly, he began receiving messages from his neighbors. They called him a monster because he had resources and refused to share. He calmly read through all their whining without caring at all. In fact, it was generating points for him. That day alone, he calculated that he had gained over 1,000 points. Then the scene showed him opening his refrigerator. He took out his phone, snapped a photo of the fully stocked interior, and posted it in the neighborhood group chat. The sight of his abundant supplies made everyone furious, though they pretended to stay polite, saying they only hoped he could share a little. Chen Zhao told them clearly that he was not a charity. If they wanted something, they would have to exchange it for items of equal value. Otherwise, there would be no deal. He had zero patience for freeloaders. Lai Dafu grew furious, calling Chen Xiao selfish. Wang joined in with her complaints. Their endless nagging made him tired, but somehow it continued generating points for him. Then the system panel notified him that after reaching 3,000 negative emotion points, he had unlocked an upgrade to the spatial cut ability, which created a microscopic rift in the air capable of slicing anything that touched it. He had no idea what that meant, so he decided to test it on an apple. Instantly, the apple split cleanly in half. That made things far more interesting for him. The scene shifted again. A car arrived at his residence. Lu Wancheng stepped out, accompanied by the leader of the Dahai gang. Zhang, who had provided Chen Xiao's location, was also there. The Dahai gang leader explained to Lu Wancheng that since Chen Xiao had once been her boyfriend, he was now leading a team to break into his house. He hoped she wouldn't feel any pity. Wancheng coldly replied that her heart was no longer his. She didn't care about Chen Xiao anymore. In truth, she never had. She even declared that Chen Xiao was nothing but useless trash to her, and that she wanted him dead that very day. Soon after, Li Dafao appeared, looking desperate. He asked if they were searching for Chen Xiao. He wasn't alone. Another neighbor stood beside him. Both were willing to show the gang where Chen Xiao's apartment was, revealing themselves as jealous rats. The gang leader told them simply to lead the way, and promised to reward the residents with a few items. Li Dafu eagerly thanked him and showed them a shortcut. The streets were in chaos. Dahai gang criminals were taking advantage of decent people, looting supplies from homes. Li Dafu felt uneasy until he saw men breaking into his own supermarket. He tried to explain it was his property, and that they were on the same side, but Lu Haifeng's henchmen declared that all territory belonged to their boss. Wang began panicking, begging them not to do this, saying they had done nothing against the gang. In the end, she regretted everything, realizing her greed had made things worse. Now the gang's presence made survival even harder. Soon the Dahai gang arrived once more at Chen Xiao's apartment. Chen Xiao casually tossed a lounge chair aside and continued chewing his food. He asked if the whole crowd had come looking for him. The gang leader thought he was ridiculously arrogant, standing on the brink of death while still maintaining that attitude. He declared that Chen Xiao's corpse wouldn't remain intact. Chen Xiao calmly replied that one shouldn't disturb others while they're eating. It was rude. The gang leader ordered his men to attack. They all carried melee weapons. Chen Xiao dodged their strikes while holding his plate. He smashed the plate over one attacker's head. Another charged at him with incredible speed, but Chen Xiao disrupted his opportunity to strike. Then a man came at him with an axe, practically forcing Chen Xiao to consider using spatial segmentation. Suddenly, someone threw a tear gas grenade. Seeing the gas, Lu Haifeng assumed Chen Xiao had backup and immediately ordered a retreat. At that moment, Mu Chang appeared out of nowhere, remarking that Chen Xiao had made quite a scene and proving his abilities weren't bad. Chen Xiao demanded to know why Mu Chang was there. Mu Chang explained he had come because of weapons. He had quality goods and wanted to know if Chen Xiao was interested. The scene shifted again. Chen Xiao brought out a box of ice-cold water. Mu Chang commented that Chen Xiao was living very comfortably, having access to cold water. He grabbed a bottle and explained that Lu Haifeng's men had recently been robbing his business. He had been observing for days and came to investigate, never expecting Lu Haifeng to be targeting Chen Xiao. He also acknowledged that supplies had been scarce for a while, yet Chen Xiao possessed a considerable stock that suggested some kind of special supply channel. Chen Xiao asked what he meant. Mu Chang clarified he meant no offense and wasn't trying to pry. But Lu Haifeng had acquired a large quantity of potable water in recent days. He proposed cooperation. They could seize all of Lu Haifeng's water, store it at Chen Xiao's place, and sell it later. Chen Xiao admitted that with rising temperatures, water resources had become a powerful form of currency. He liked the idea of cooperation, much to Mu Chang's surprise, but declared that the profit split would be 9-1, 9 for himself, 1 for Mu Chang. Mu Chang was left speechless, thinking it might be better if Chen Xiao simply robbed him outright. And obviously, due to the shock, Chen Xiao ended up earning a good amount of points. Seeing that the guy wasn't willing to cooperate, Chen Xiao said he was leaving, since they had nothing else to talk about. Suddenly, Mu Chang grabbed him by the leg, begging to make it 8-2 because he needed profit just to be able to eat. He was practically pleading. He believed Chen Xiao was very capable and was sure he had a trump card. Besides, he didn't know anyone more suitable for a job like that. After all the crying and begging, Chen Xiao agreed to do business with him, but on one condition: whatever Mu Chang managed to obtain to sell, Chen Xiao would get first pick before any other customers. Whatever Chen Xiao didn't want. Mu Chang could sell to others. Mu Chang immediately agreed. Chen Xiao then stated that their first step was to figure out the fortress's structure and the distribution of personnel. The scene then shifted to Lu Haifeng's fortress, which had a trading area in the front. People with little water would spend money to buy some or trade items for it. There were many armed men around. Not only that, there were also several girls who had been captured. Obviously, they were there to provide special services to the upper management, and Liu Wanqing was one of them. The water storage area was located in the back, but they still didn't know its exact location. Chen Xiao told his partner that he would infiltrate alone to take a look. He would give Mu Chang a signal, and Mu Chang should create a distraction to draw away the main force. Mu Chang couldn't understand it at all. His partner was going alone. There was no way to move the water like that. Chen Xiao made it clear that he had his own methods and immediately leaped forward. He walked calmly until an armed man stopped him, saying he looked suspicious and demanding identification. Chen Xiao showed a card and said that Chief Lu had sent him to count the water stock, but the man was sharp and not easily fooled. At that moment, Chen Xiao, who had only ever used his spatial slash to cut apples, was about to cut something different. In an instant, he sliced the man, causing him to bleed heavily. Another armed man appeared, horrified by what he saw, and began firing at Chen Xiao, who dodged and used his spatial slash on the man with the pistol as well. Hearing the gunshots, the others quickly mobilized. Chen Xiao hid in a dark spot when suddenly a hand grabbed him and pulled him away. Lu Haifeng's men searched everywhere for the intruder, while Li Yuyu told Chen Xiao to stay quiet. She was the one who had pulled him. He wanted to know why she was there. She explained she had been captured and asked if the same thing had happened to him. He didn't answer. Instead, he asked if she knew where the water storage was. Lie, you said they had made her clean the storage area, so she knew the way and could take him there. She glanced at a bucket nearby, which could be used as bait. The scene then shifted to the bucket falling to the ground with a loud crash. Some of the men even had rocket launchers. They rushed to where the noise came from, but no one was there. The girl told Chen Xiao to follow her. There were no surveillance cameras in that area. After they arrived, Chen Xiao told her to find a place to hide and wait for him. Then he used his ability to create a passage and entered, making a lot of noise. One of Lu Haifeng's lackeys was inside and was shocked, unable to understand how someone had gotten in. Without wasting time, Chen Xiao used his spatial slash and killed the man quickly. At the same time, he gained points from all the negative emotions his victims felt before losing their lives. Meanwhile, Li Yuyu grew worried because Chen Xiao had been inside for a while. She wondered if something had happened to him when suddenly a huge explosion went off right in front of her, startling her badly. She grabbed a brick to defend herself in case one of Liu Haifeng's men showed up. She saw a shadow and decided to attack, but it was Chen Xiao. He told her everything was settled and asked her to come with him. He held a pistol and fired into the air, the bullet striking the ceiling. That was the signal for Mu Chang, who was waiting from afar. Seeing that his partner had succeeded, Mu Chang quickly grabbed a cart full of Molotov cocktails and threw them, causing a brutal fire. The lackeys scrambled to minimize the damage. The girl showed Chen Xiao an alley that led to the outside of the south gate. Suddenly, Lu Wanqing appeared, begging him to take her with him. She pleaded, talking about the love they once had, promising she would never blame him again for using her name to take out loans if he would just take her away. Chen Xiao made it clear she didn't understand the situation. She began crying desperately. Life there was miserable for her. She was forced every day to serve those old men. If she resisted, she was beaten as an example. If she tried to run, they would chase her down and drag her back. She had nowhere to go and begged Chen Xiao to let her live with him, saying she was willing to do anything for him. Chen Xiao clearly remembered when she had mocked him for being poor, called him a failure, slept with old men behind his back, and paved the way for Lu Haifeng to kill him. He asked if she had gone crazy. She was terrified. He remembered clearly how he had died in his previous life and asked if she had ever imagined this day would come. Then he slapped her, knocking her to the ground, and told her her acting was terrible. After that, he called the girl who was with him so they could continue on their way. Liu Wanqing then said that was just great, calling him cruel. If he wouldn't let her live well, she wouldn't let anyone else have an easy life either. Her rage earned him quite a few points. Inside the warehouse, Lu Haifeng was shouting, demanding to know where his water was. The place was completely destroyed, and written on the wall was a message saying the water had been taken, and next time his life would be taken as well. There was no signature. The leader of the Dahai gang demanded to know who was responsible, furious beyond measure. Then Lu Wanqing appeared, saying it was Chen Xiao. She claimed she had tried to stop him, but he had injured her, and even called Lu Haifeng trash. In the end, Wanqing was very good at lying. She clung to the gang leader, saying Chen Xiao had declared Lu Haifeng didn't deserve those resources, and was willing to kill them all. Lu Haifeng was enraged and ordered everyone to head to the south gate to kill Chen Xiao, who had become a serious problem for him. Meanwhile, Mu Chang saw the chaos and wished his partner had given more details. Suddenly, Lu Haifeng himself arrived. Chen Xiao remarked that Lu Haifeng had shown up quickly. Without hesitation, the Dahai gang leader ordered his men to seize Chen Xiao. Chen Xiao immediately threw a burning torch onto the ground, setting the entire area ablaze and preventing the gang from reaching them. Lu Haifeng, furious, declared he would personally confirm Chen Xiao's death when he caught him. Chen Xiao thanked Lu Haifeng, since all that rage was generating points for him. Next, the scene shifts to Mu Chang, his mouth full of orange juice, saying that was insane. He believed Lu Haifeng must be grinding his teeth at home right now. While the three of them were eating very well, Li Yuyu thanked Chen Xiao, because if it weren't for him, she would still be trapped in that hell. But Chen Xiao said there was no need for thanks. They were classmates after all. Besides, she had made him feel that there were still people in this world worth trusting. Seeing the two of them like that, Mu Chang joked that this was the moment when the hero saved the princess. He also wanted to know how his partner had managed to pull it off, because emptying an entire reservoir by himself seemed like magic to him, especially considering how much water was around them. Chen Xiao simply told him he had his own methods, and instead of asking questions, Mu Chang should focus on selling all that water safely. Chen Xiao also told the girl that after graduating from middle school, he had never heard any news about her again. Li Yu explained that after graduation, her family had suffered several accidents. The scene shifted to her memories. She was calling out to her father and mother. She explained that her parents had disappeared at the same time. Suddenly, the place they were in caught fire. When they went outside to check, the situation was already terrible. People outside were desperate. Chen Xiao was monitoring everything through the security cameras. Mu Chang was furious at the situation. He was certain that the one responsible was Lu Haifeng, who was basically trying to drag everyone to their deaths. Li Yu asked if they should do something. Chen Xiao was sure that the leader of the Dahai gang was trying to use morality and innocent lives as a rope to tie him down. In any case, it didn't make a difference to him. He was no longer the useless loser from his previous life, who had been humiliated by everyone. Meanwhile, Liu Haifeng shouted at Chen Xiao, demanding to know how long he could keep hiding. He declared that if Chen Xiao didn't come out, he would burn the entire area to ashes. He wanted to see how long the fortress Chen Xiao had built could last. One of Liu Haifeng's subordinates believed that even if Chen Xiao didn't burn to death, the smoke would kill him. Liu Haifeng practically took pleasure in setting the place on fire. Mu Chang told his partner they couldn't let this continue, because the heat would eventually spread to where they were, and they would suffocate from lack of oxygen. Chen Xiao then realized that he hadn't installed the highest grade fire protection system in his fortress, so he pressed a button, and the fire was quickly extinguished. Mu Chang was shocked by what he was seeing. Chen Xiao was using nanogram grade aerogel, something of military level quality, not something just anyone could access. Li Yu simply watched everything unfold. Even so, Liu Haifeng didn't give up. He had practically declared war. He ordered his subordinates to keep throwing Molotov cocktails, not caring if the place was reduced to ashes. But then he received bad news from one of his lackeys. The fuel was almost gone, and the white mist was extremely dangerous. Chen Zhao picked up a megaphone and asked if Liu Haifeng had had enough fun playing with fire. He invited him to come inside and have a glass of cold water to cool off. Naturally, the Dehai gang leader was furious, earning Chen Zhao even more points. Then Liu Haifeng realized that killing Chen Zhao would actually be very easy. If that house was fireproof, durable, and self-sufficient, then it was the perfect shelter. Liu Haifeng wanted that house for himself. Brute force wasn't working, and fire attacks were ineffective, so he decided to strip away the last bit of civilization. He tied up Wang and the others, declaring that Chen Xiao was responsible for their suffering. Wang began to cry, blaming Chen Xiao, saying they were paying the price in his place. Mu Qiang was outraged at his comrade's rival. The situation was getting worse. He wanted to go outside and fight Liu Haifeng to the death. Chen Xiao assumed that using other people's lives to blackmail him wouldn't work. In a world like this, kindness was nothing but an absurd weakness. Liu Haifeng continued, asking if Chen Zhao really intended to remain a coward and keep hiding. With that, he dragged someone forward. Chen Xiao saw that Liu Haifeng had grabbed Old Wang. He clearly remembered that in his previous life, Old Wang had prayed for him to survive and told him to hold on to hope. Chen Xiao told Mu Chang to stay inside and protect himself. He was going down to settle things with Liu Haifeng. He stepped outside and declared that the fight was between the two of them, and no one else should be unfairly involved. Liu Haifeng saw that his opponent was finally willing to come out of hiding, but acting like a hero wouldn't change anything. He declared that he wanted his money and the water. Chen Xiao replied that he wasn't playing hero. He wasn't even interested in that. Fighting and killing were boring to him. He pointed at the Dahai gang leader and said he had heard that Liu Haifeng started out running a casino, so they might as well settle things using the method he was best at. He challenged his opponent to a bet. If Liu Haifeng won, Chen Xiao would hand everything over. But if Chen Xiao won, Old Wang had to be released, and Liu Haifeng had to leave immediately. Liu Haifeng agreed, and quickly prepared what was needed for the gamble, declaring they would play a round that determined life or death. Chen Xiao said he was betting big. It was like a showdown between gambling gods. The two of them threw their dice, and soon the dice began to move. The lackeys cheered loudly for their boss to win. At that moment, Liu Haifeng won. He rolled triple sixes. Chen Xiao commented that his opponent was in too much of a hurry, because the winner had not yet been decided. Then he sliced the dice in half, sarcastically remarking that Liu Haifeng's dice weren't very good. Liu Haifeng and his men were left stunned. The residents of the building were terrified, unable to understand how the dice had been split in half. In the end, Chen Xiao declared that the total was 21 points higher than Liu Haifeng's supreme roll. He announced that his opponent had lost and should release the old man. Liu Haifeng was furious, unable to believe that Chen Xiao dared to cheat. Meanwhile, Chen Xiao continued gaining more points. The Dahai gang leader charged toward him, declaring he would send him to hell. But this was actually a good moment for Chen Xiao, because he wanted to test his new ability. He calmly dodged Liu Haifeng's attack, and then threw a tear gas grenade onto the ground. The lackeys immediately worried about their boss and asked if he was okay. Liu Haifeng said he was fine, and ordered them to find Chen Xiao. Eventually, Liu Haifeng spotted Chen Xiao in the middle of the smoke and ordered his men to fire at him. Suddenly, one of the lackeys screamed. Liu Haifeng didn't didn't understand what was happening until he realized his subordinates were being sliced in half. He didn't care how strong Chen Xiao was. He refused to believe his opponent could withstand a rocket launcher. Without hesitation, he fired at Chen Xiao, declaring that everything that belonged to Chen Xiao now belonged to him. But at that very moment, Chen Xiao activated his spatial barrier. The missile was instantly destroyed. Liu Haifeng was stunned, unable to comprehend what had just happened. He had just seen his opponent block a missile. Chen Xiao even mocked the Dahai gang leader, suggesting that it would be embarrassing to lose in front of so many people, and asking if he intended to break their bet. Then Chen Xiao sliced the missile into countless pieces. Liu Haifeng was so terrified that he dropped the rocket launcher. Chen Xiao made it clear that Liu Haifeng wasn't worthy of negotiating terms with him. He had repeatedly provoked him and tested his limits. Now it was time to settle accounts. The fuel Liu Haifeng had brought was already exhausted. Fighting head-on was a losing battle. To him, Chen Xiao's abilities were beyond human. So Liu Haifeng quickly changed his attitude. He decided it would be better to recruit Chen Xiao and recover his previous losses with interest. In an instant, he shifted from aggression to humility, claiming it was all a misunderstanding and asking if they could make peace and even become friends. He was practically begging, seeing no other way out. He offered to let Chen Xiao live even better than before. He revealed that he had a batch of medicine, which was extremely precious. He offered to give the entire batch of medicine to Chen Xiao if the young man promised to leave him alone. Chen Xiao recognized the medicine as valuable leverage, but he told the Dahai gang leader that he didn't only have that one room. What he had stored was far beyond what anyone could imagine. Still, Liu Haifeng assumed Chen Xiao only had food and water, and lacking medicine could be fatal. He insisted on cooperating, saying the medicine was stored in an abandoned factory in the West District, and only they knew the password. Chen Xiao simply acknowledged it and said the matter would end that night. Liu Haifeng felt relieved that the misunderstanding had been cleared up. Chen Xiao told him he could leave for now, they would talk another day. The gang departed with their leader. As for the password, it was meaningless to Chen Xiao. There wasn't a door he couldn't open. He then approached Old Wang and said the gang had left and they could relax. Old Wang's eyes widened in fear, earning Chen Xiao a good amount of points from that emotion. The old man told Chen Xiao that if he ever needed anything, he only had to ask. He admitted he was too old to fight, but could help with plants and other tasks. Chen Xiao understood his good intentions and simply wanted the old man to rest for now. The scene shifted to the gang returning to their base. Everyone was shaken by what had happened. In truth, Liu Haifeng had only been buying time. He intended to wait for the right moment to kill Chen Xiao and seize his supplies. The lackeys praised their boss, believing him to be wise. They were confident he could kill Chen Xiao. However, Liu Haifeng admitted there was something very strange about Chen Xiao. Not even heavy artillery projectiles could get close to him. He ordered his men to spend a few days investigating Chen Xiao, but suddenly, he was struck by a massive slash before he could even finish speaking. He lost his life on the spot. From afar, standing atop a building, Chen Xiao had overheard the entire conversation. With a single strike, he sent the Dahai gang leader to the afterlife. Meanwhile, news about the global extreme heat phenomenon continued to spread. Authorities even suggested that residents make a choice based on their circumstances. The first option was to go to temporary shelters established by the northern government. The second was to stay in place and wait for rescue. Chen Xiao remembered the north well. In his previous life it had been called a pure land, but that was nothing more than an impossible dream. The real nightmare had only just begun. Heat-resistant mutant beasts would devour the creations of civilization. Among humans, awakened individuals would form factions, fighting for resources and killing one another. What he needed to do now was not simply wait inside his house. He needed to turn it into the ultimate fortress for surviving the apocalypse. Outside, several neighbors were furious. They were starving, their houses completely burned down, while Chen Xiao was living comfortably with abundant resources. They began pounding on his door, demanding that he help them and explain why he hadn't intervened earlier. They practically made the decision for him, declaring that everyone should live inside that fortress. It should be collective survival. But inside, Chen Xiao was calmly listening to music while preparing a juicy piece of meat to eat. He even sent a photo to the neighborhood group chat, making them even more enraged and earning himself more points. One neighbor was so furious that he smashed his phone onto the ground, swearing he would kill Chen Xiao. Soon after, the scene shifted to Chen Xiao leaving the house. He planned to head to the abandoned factory in the West District, but he preferred to scout the area along the way first. He stepped out cautiously, just in time to avoid a cleaver that was thrown straight at him. But seeing that blocking wouldn't be very effective, he chose to dodge the cleaver. Those guys declared that he would either give up the house or they wouldn't go easy on him. However, Chen Xiao wasn't the one going easy. He stepped close to the bald man, grabbed the hand holding the cleaver, and quickly twisted his arm, forcing him to drop it. Chen Xiao then picked up the blade. Another guy came at him with a cleaver and tried to attack. Chen Xiao was quick. He was already on guard, and several men tried to attack him at the same time, but he managed to slash them all in one sweep. One of the men fell, demanding to know how Chen Xiao dared to kill people in broad daylight. Certain that someone was watching watching everything. Chen Xiao didn't understand what the man meant. After mentioning killing him, Chen Xiao thought they were afraid of getting their hands dirty. Their skin was already starting to look very strange. Chen Xiao believed that killing those men would make everything much easier. In that climate, with infections from wounds, ulcers, and other health problems, it would be better to let them suffer until they rotted from the pain. Then the scene shifts to the West District, to the factory he had heard about from Lu Haifeng, who had died with his mouth full of ants. When Chen Xiao arrived, he noticed a camera and quickly smashed it before entering. However, there was poisonous gas inside, and he began to cough. He soon realized he had fallen into a trap. Behind him were two people. As he grew weak and vulnerable, a man wearing a gas mask approached and injected him with a vaccine. The man asked if he was feeling better, and explained that the gas wasn't fatal. It only caused severe discomfort to those who inhaled it. Startled, Chen Xiao demanded to know who they were. He didn't understand why there were guards there, since the leader of the Dahai gang hadn't mentioned anything about that, but the two people didn't seem malicious. The man introduced himself as Lin Guodong, saying he was a biomedical researcher focused on human evolution in extreme environments. He also introduced his student Su Rui, and stated that he was in charge of the place. Su Rui greeted him. Lin Guodong continued, explaining that the gas outside was a necessary security measure. However, he was curious about the tool Chen Xiao had used, as the incision was very unique in his opinion. Chen Xiao thanked the professor for saving him, though he remained thoughtful about Lin Guodong being a biomedical researcher. He realized the place was merely a pharmaceutical storage room. Lin Guodong led him to an area filled with medicine. He was sure Chen Xiao needed it, and told him to feel free to take whatever he wanted. The biomedical researcher acted as if it were both an apology for the security measures and a welcome gift. Chen Xiao took several medicines, placed them in his bag, thanked him, and left. Lin Guodong was certain they would meet again. The scene then shifts to Chen Xiao returning home. Even though Lin Guodong hadn't caused him trouble and had ultimately saved him, the way the researcher looked at him sent chills down his spine. Suddenly he saw a message in the neighbor's group chat, asking if anyone had antibiotics and offering to pay a good price. Chen Xiao was pleased to see the message, since he had a few boxes. However, he wasn't ready to sell yet, so he took a photo and sent it to the group. This angered everyone. Obviously, he did it to gain more leverage. Then he realized there was a tracker in his backpack. Surprised, he wondered who had placed it there and when. Regardless, if someone wanted to play games with him, he was willing to play along. He found a kitten and attached the tracker to it, hoping the cat would carry it to the places it liked to roam. The scene shifts as the cat wandered through various places, causing the tracking data on a computer to appear chaotic. Lin Guodong was watching the screen, trying to understand what was happening, since Chen Xiao's movement pattern seemed highly unusual. Meanwhile, a young man in the group chat asked if anyone had anti-inflammatory medicine, saying his brother was dying. A woman begged for some water for her son, and offered to trade her illustrated books. Chen Xiao remembered that woman from his previous life. She used sympathy to bait people and gain benefits. Someone in the neighbors group began accusing Chen Xiao of having plenty of resources, but refusing to give even a little to a child. Chen Xiao found it ridiculous. He wasn't the boy's father, and the child wasn't his responsibility. Hypocrisy and moral blackmail wouldn't work on him. He noticed another woman with boxes of water and food, and declared that if she shared them with the struggling mother and her son, he would give her double. The woman was shocked. She realized he had installed cameras in the hallway. Although she had been careful, she had still been caught on camera. The other neighbors demanded to know if she was really hiding water from everyone. They went to her apartment and knocked on her door. When she didn't answer, they resorted to old-fashioned methods. They broke down her door with an axe, demanding the water and food, and warning her not to provoke an even worse reaction. Terrified, she watched as they quickly took the boxes. In the end, she was left with nothing, and broke down in desperate tears. Meanwhile, the brother of the man who had earlier asked for medicine died, and his body began to smell. The people didn't know what to do. They felt abandoned, as if no one cared about them. Suddenly, Lin Guodong appeared with his student, asking everyone not to panic. All they needed to do was stay calm. He explained that they were a medical team licensed by the city's CDC, and had come to help. He knew everyone was suffering. They had arrived immediately after receiving the request, but the entrance had been blocked, causing a delay. He told them it wasn't too late. In that intense heat, corpses had to be professionally and safely disposed of immediately, or there could be an epidemic with unimaginable consequences. He offered disinfectant tablets and basic medicine. Supplies were limited, and they had to distribute them according to need. The people were overjoyed and thanked Lin Guodong, relieved to feel that the country had not forgotten them. In the end, however, the biomedical researcher was there looking for Chen Xiao, believing the young man couldn't have gone far. Chen Xiao, in another building across the way, didn't understand why Lin Guodong was there. He began to suspect the researcher was tracking him. Suddenly, he received a notification on his phone, warning him to be careful of that doctor. Chen Xiao immediately grew wary, wondering who had sent the text message. Then the scene shifts to a man far away, observing everything through a gigantic telescope. Chen Xiao realizes that someone else is watching him. He quickly tries to call the number that sent the warning message, but he is informed that it is a virtual number, meaning the person is hiding their identity. He has no idea whether that person is simply being kind to him, or trying to use him to deal with Lin Guodong. Meanwhile, Lin Guodong is downstairs with the residents, who are very grateful for his help, since the bodies could have caused even bigger problems. He tells them to be careful about heat stroke, and that they can look for him if they feel any discomfort. Chen Xiao keeps observing until he notices something on the researcher's clothes, what looks like like bloodstains. At the same time, it could also be some kind of dried reagent. Chen Xiao remembers that in his previous life, shortly after the heatwave outbreak, medical teams appeared in certain areas, collecting blood samples from residents in the name of epidemic prevention. After that, people with strong physiques mysteriously disappeared. Lin Guidong then posts a notice on the bulletin board, announcing a free health checkpoint to treat wounds and even provide water. Everyone begins to see him as a good person. The scene shifts to the cat Chen Xiao had attached the tracker to. Lin Guidong realizes it's no wonder the tracking signal had been so erratic. He pets the cat, seeing that it looks perfectly fine. Suddenly, his phone starts vibrating. He grows irritated, certain that he has been discovered. Lin Guidong is right behind him, confirming that the one tracking him is that damned biomedical researcher. Soon, people line up at the checkpoint. Lin Guidong set up. They suffer greatly in the heat, hoping for rain to cool things down. Lin Guidong attends to them, asking their names, ages, and whether they have any physical discomfort. He sees an elderly man named Chen, 76 years old, who feels fine but has always had high blood pressure. Chen Xiao is there as well, watching everything. The old man asks why Lin Guidong needs to collect blood. Lin Guidong explains it's just a routine test, so as not to worry him. Chen Xiao wants to understand what the researcher is really trying to do. Suddenly, a young man rushes over in desperation, telling Lin Guidong that his subordinate has an infected wound and begging him to save his brother. Lin Guidong takes out a medicine and shows it to him, explaining that it is a broad-spectrum enhancer capable of accelerating wound healing and resisting infections. The injured subordinate is right beside them. Lin Guidong injects the medicine into the man's vein and tells him to rest for a few days. He will recover soon. The injured man thanks him. Chen Xiao keeps watching, trying to figure out what is happening. The two men leave, but the injured man's boss notices he is acting strange and asks if he is okay. The man starts trembling, saying it feels as if his bones are burning. Suddenly, his veins begin to bulge grotesquely, spreading up to his face. He starts radiating a strange energy, terrifying his brother. Something is clearly wrong. All of a sudden, the once injured man's arm looks perfectly healed, and he lifts the other man off the ground. The boss is frightened and asks if he has lost his mind, reminding him who the boss is. The subordinate declares that his boss had pushed him into a knife the last time, which was why he got injured. Suddenly, someone forces him to release the man, who collapses to the ground. The grotesque-looking man demands to know who is there. It's Chen Xiao. Without hesitation, the man charges at him. Chen Xiao easily dodges, but realizes that the man's strength has increased significantly. His joints are completely stiff, and his attack trajectory is perfectly straight. Chen Xiao concludes that this is not a normal reaction to medication. He decides to end it there, and cuts the man down in a single strike, as if cutting the problem at its root. The scene shifts to Lin Guidong, who is utterly confused. The positioning signal has stopped. He clearly remembers the injection he gave the man. It contained a nanorobot tracker, so there shouldn't have been any issue. He should have been able to track him easily. When he finds the man's body on the ground, he is shocked. He takes out his tablet and photographs the corpse. The man has been decapitated. Lin Guidong refers to him as prototype T7 and gives a diagnosis: a nervous collapse after excessive stimulation, though that should not have been the direct cause of death. He recalls the fatal wound on Liu Haifeng's body and the clean cut marks on the door lock that day. The cuts were smooth and precise. He knows Chen Xiao was behind it. What he admires is that Chen Xiao did it without equipment or weapons, yet he could cut through things like that. He is clearly no ordinary person. He had already sensed that Chen Xiao was different, and seeing the dead prototype confirms it. Meanwhile, the man who had been injured earlier is coughing heavily. Lin Guidong approaches him and tells him not to move, judging that he is seriously wounded and that his lung lobes may be bleeding. The man doesn't understand why Lin Guidong is there and asks how his subordinate is doing. Lin Guidong simply says he is sorry about his friend, but then shows him a photo of Chen Xiao, asking if he knows him. He is certain that Chen Xiao killed the man and assures him that if he knows where Chen Xiao went, they can find him and clarify the truth, preventing more people from getting hurt. The man does know Chen Xiao and even knows where he lives. Lin Guidong pretends to be concerned, saying the man is gravely injured and needs professional treatment. He invites him to his laboratory, claiming it has the best equipment so he can recover properly. The man is very happy. The scene shifts to the laboratory. The man sits in a wheelchair, clearly worried. He doesn't want to trouble the professor, but he wants to understand how his subordinate ended up like that. He had been fine before the injection, yet afterward his mind changed completely. Lin Guidong explains that it was an extreme rejection reaction to the reagent, something very rare. They will examine it in detail and then provide him with the best treatment for his serious injuries. The man becomes frightened. He doesn't want an injection that might do the same to him. He asks for just some antibiotics so he can rest at home instead. But Lin Guidong doesn't care about what he says, declaring that all of this is for science. Suddenly, the man begins screaming in desperation. He is placed in isolation. Meanwhile, Chen Xiao is lying down calmly, trying to understand what that biomedical researcher is really doing. Then something catches his attention. It's Lin Guidong calling his intercom, asking if they can talk. He apologizes for the late hour and for the intense heat that day. Chen Xiao ends up opening the door. Wanting to know why the man was looking for him so late, Chen Xiao asks his reason. Ling Guodong says he heard that Chen Xiao lived nearby and thought he might find him there. Chen Xiao sees that the man really did track him down quickly and wonders why the professor took such initiative. Ling Guodong admits he didn't expect to see him again so soon. Soon, they are sitting in the living room. The professor finds Chen Xiao's house very unusual. He notices that it has been reinforced, something far from ordinary, and says he would rather call it an apocalypse shelter. He asks whether Chen Xiao had known for a long time that extreme heat was coming. He even mentions hearing about renovations designed to guarantee up to 50 years of survival, though he always believed such things were the ideas of lunatic prophets. Everything there fascinates him, and he says he came to ask Chen Xiao something. He explains that one of Chen Xiao's neighbors was recently killed, and there was also Lu Haifeng, who had previously caused trouble for Chen Xiao and had died some time ago. Ling Guodong personally examined their bodies. Both had their cervical vertebrae severed instantly. The cuts resembled laser surgery. That kind of wound is not something ordinary knives can produce. Even military weapons would struggle to achieve such precision. Chen Xiao pretends that maybe it was some kind of assassin weapon made by the same manufacturer. He practically mocks the professor, saying that if he knows anything about such a weapon, he should let him know. Ling Guodong asks why Chen Xiao would want something like that. Chen Xiao replies that it would be useful for cutting steak, especially when it's frozen, since that makes it harder to slice. Ling Guodong is speechless for a moment before stating that, in any case, those two people died at the hands of the same individual, someone with extremely professional technique, not an ordinary person. Chen Xiao continues pretending ignorance, suggesting that perhaps they were just unlucky and messed with someone they shouldn't have. Ling Guodong makes it clear that he knows both men had conflicts with Chen Xiao. Chen Xiao responds that the professor must enjoy jokes, reminding him that he is just an ordinary person. He asks how the professor could possibly assume he has such ability. He also points out that the professor showed up at his house carrying a medical kit. Did he assume Chen Xiao was dying? And besides, Chen Xiao never gave him his address, so how did he find his home? Ling Guodong shows a photo on his phone and asks whether Chen Xiao recognizes the man. He explains that this person told him where Chen Xiao lives. Chen Xiao is stunned. It's his neighbor Zhang Cheng. Chen Xiao asks where Zhang Cheng is now. Ling Guodong says Zhang Cheng is seriously injured and receiving necessary treatment to recover. Chen Xiao asks about his current condition. He knows Zhang Cheng had a hard life, and falling into Ling Guodong's hands would only make things worse. The biomedical researcher claims that Zhang Cheng is responding well to a new therapy under high temperature conditions. The human body evolves, he says, but Zhang Cheng appears to be evolving faster than others. Chen Xiao begins to suspect that the strange professor is conducting human experiments. He asks what the real purpose of this visit is. The scene shifts to Zhang Qiang, who is rising to his feet. His vital signs fluctuate violently. A genetic mutation is underway. Lin Guodong presents an immune enhancer he developed, capable of resisting various pathogens under extreme heat, claiming it has no side effects. Seeing the liquid's color, Chen Xiao remarks that it looks like blueberry soda and asks whether it needs to be shaken before drinking. His sarcasm earns him a surge of negative emotion from the professor. Chen Xiao picks up the syringe to examine it, while Lin Guodong states that he knows Chen Xiao is not an ordinary man. The extreme heat will continue, the world will change, and the survival rate for ordinary people will be less than 10%, but many he believes will evolve. Chen Xiao asks whether that evolution will look like what is happening to Zhang Cheng. Lin Guodong explains that it is a necessary price for scientific progress. Someone always has to go first. Chen Xiao, with his stable evolutionary traits, is an ideal candidate. He proposes cooperation to find a method for humanity to adapt to the new world. Chen Xiao declines, saying he is not very interested. Lin Guodong tells him there is no need to rush his answer. The heat will bring new infections, diseases, and even mutant creatures. Cooperation between them would provide the knowledge and technology needed to survive longer. He leaves the reagent behind and says the doors of his laboratory will always be open to Chen Xiao. As he turns to leave, the professor notes Chen Xiao's strong mentality and firm consciousness, clear signs he is no ordinary man. He is certain the young man will not escape his grasp. Chen Xiao realizes the professor is a magnate, conducting experiments on living people, and speaking of it openly. He decides that if he wants peaceful days ahead, he must get rid of this professor. Since Lin Guodong wants to study evolution, Chen Xiao will show him what true evolution is. The scene shifts to Zhang Chang in a state of fury. The mutation process has been successfully completed. Lin Guodong watches happily, delighted that everything worked. Hatred, fear, and pain, he notes, are indeed perfect catalysts. He tells Zhang Chang that he has been reborn. His first mission is to go to Chen Xiao's house and bring him to the laboratory, alive and intact. Su Rui sees her professor using living people to create monsters, and asks whether he is certain this is the human evolution he has always spoken of. Lin Guodong explains that this is her first time participating in an experiment, so he understands her confusion, but she insists that these are human experiments. An ethical line has already been crossed. He questions why she is talking about ethics at a time like this. They are in a solar apocalypse, he reminds her. Morality has become a luxury. Their sacrifice will be exchanged for the possibility of more people surviving. He presses a button, releasing Zhang Chang, and orders him to bring Chen Xiao back alive. The scene shifts again. Zhang Chang makes a massive leap, sniffing out Chen Xiao's scent. Eventually he finds him. Chen Xiao stares at him, wanting to confirm whether it is truly Zhang Chang. He can hardly believe that in just a few days his neighbor has turned into this. He wonders whether he should still call him Zongchang or start calling him a monster. That left his neighbor extremely stressed, declaring that he was going to kill Chen Xiao. He was giving off a huge number of points all at once. Chen Xiao realized that emotions were truly stronger after the beast transformation. It had become much easier for him to gain points. He immediately started running, leading his gigantic neighbor to a more open area. After all, he didn't want to damage the neighborhood any more than it already was. They headed to a parking lot. Chen Xiao wanted Zhang Cheng to feel his spatial slash, but he simply couldn't cause any damage. Chen Xiao soon noticed that his neighbor's skin had become much thicker. Zhang Xiao tried to attack him again, but Chen Xiao dodged. He remembered that his neighbor used to have plenty of strength and no brains, and now he could see that at this moment Zhang Qiang could barely speak his native language. That only made Zhang Qiang angrier, generating even more points. Chen Xiao found it amusing how a guy who was already ugly had become even uglier, assuming that Lin Guodong had terrible taste. Suddenly, Shen Xiao stopped abruptly, and Chen Xiao realized something wasn't right. In an instant, he was caught off guard. Shen Xiaomi appeared behind him and launched bone spikes, striking Chen Xiao. From a distance, Lin Guodong watched everything, considering the second mutation to be exciting, and ordered Su Rui to record all the data. While Su Rui had her doubts about whether this was truly the right path to save humanity, Zhang Qiang prepared himself and unleashed a skill, completely ignoring what the professor had said, and making it clear he was going to kill Chen Xiao. At that moment, Chen Xiao used a spatial slash on his gigantic neighbor, but it was useless and he ended up injured. He began to bleed as the panel issued a safety alert. Chen Xiao assumed he just needed a little more, so he started provoking Zhang Cheng, asking if that was all he had, and even calling him a spike pig. Zhang Cheng felt both rage and humiliation, generating massive amounts of points. Chen Xiao reminded the big guy about when he used to collect protection fees in the old district, saying that at least back then he had the guts to grab a steel pipe and attack people. Now he had taken injections, grown a few bones, and thought he had become somebody. Obviously, all of Chen Xiao's taunting was getting on Zhang Cheng's nerves. He kept going, making things even worse, asking if Zhang Cheng was a dog, since Lin Guodong ordered him to bite people, and he obeyed without question. At that moment, his fury generated even more points. Lin Guodong was enjoying the scene as well, as Zhang Cheng's emotional peak had reached a critical level. He was very pleased that Chen Xiao was pushing Zhang Cheng to his limit. Su Renri began to grow worried, trying to understand what Chen Xiao was attempting to do. Suddenly, Zhang Cheng started launching bone spikes in every direction. Chen Xiao didn't believe that was all he could do, so he decided to continue provoking his neighbor. But he had already gained the score he wanted, and in doing so, he obtained a skill called Annihilation Spatial Rift. He quickly evolved, and just as the bone spikes were about to reach him, Chen Xiao used his new ability, causing the spikes to be swallowed instantly. Zhang Cheng's arm was also on the verge of being swallowed. Suddenly, Zhang Qiang grew desperate. Chen Xiao then removed the collar from his neighbor's neck and told the professor that his experiment hadn't been very good, and that next time he should send someone who actually knew how to fight. Lin Guodong was furious, but then he began to laugh like a psychopath, realizing that Chen Xiao was truly different from the others, and declaring that he would capture him sooner or later. Seeing how pathetic Zhang Cheng had become, Chen Xiao was ready to end his life right there. Suddenly, someone approached, declaring that it had been truly splendid. Chen Xiao immediately demanded to know who was there. The man introduced himself as Chen Shixing, and remarked that the smell of death was always primitive and pungent, but he also praised Chen Xiao's battle, calling it brilliant. Chen Shixing was certain that in this era of despair, gods would ascend. At that moment, Chen Xiao had already begun preparing his ability. Chen Shixing continued, convinced that Chen Xiao was not an unfinished product created by Lin Guodong, whom he referred to as a madman. Seeing that the man in front of him knew Lin Guodong, Chen Xiao wanted to know if Chen Shixing was his accomplice. Chen Shixing denied it, explaining that he was the exact opposite. He was there to stop Lin Guodong from continuing to create tragedies. He revealed that the anonymous text message warning Chen Xiao to stay away from Lin Guodong had been sent by him. Chen Xiao wanted to know how this man had his phone number. Chen Shixing explained that the ARC group had an intelligence network. It wasn't difficult, and that he represented the organization. He invited Chen Xiao to join them, promising to bring him true evolution. At that moment, Chen Xiao realized that in this life, the awakened abilities in some people had appeared earlier. Chen Shixing explained that they were not like Lin Guodong, who extracted life excessively and distorted flesh. They were better, maintaining rationality and appearance. Chen Shixing then asked what ARC was. Chen Shixing explained that it was an organization seeking the awakened. They believed the world was about to undergo a transformation, and only the true elite could board the Ark of the new era. Chen Shixing had the qualifications. Chen Shixing made it clear that they could give him what Lin Guodong could not, promising that Chen Shixing would grow stronger without suffering mutations, that he would retain his reason and control his power, walking a path to become a god. Chen Shixing concluded that the man was a charlatan with all that empty talk. Chen Shixing looked confused, and in a flash, Chen Shixing sliced the card in his hand with a spatial slash, leaving him stunned. Chen Shixing apologized, pretending his hand had slipped, but explained that he hated it when others tried to arrange his life for him. He didn't care about them or about Lin Guodong. He would follow his own path. He was used to being alone. He didn't want anyone teaching him how to live. He didn't need any group. Chen Shixing saw that the young man had a strong personality, so he turned his back and warned that the world was about to collapse. Unchecked knowledge could allow those who possessed it to survive longer. Even so, Chen Shixing Sheg ignored him. Suddenly Chen Sheg disappeared, declaring that their doors would remain open to him. Chen Shao found it all quite interesting. Chen Shixing had proven to be a very stable person, but he had still contributed a fair amount of negative points. In any case, Chen Shao was determined to break his limits. However, there was still the matter of Lin Guidong. He resolved that he needed to deal with that biomedical researcher as soon as possible. As Chen Shao walked forward, he snapped his fingers and sliced the door open, revealing rows of tubes with experiments inside. He wondered if this was Lin Guidong's grand scientific vision, and found it utterly disgusting. A place like this deserved to be burned to the ground. Then the man himself appeared, saying that Chen Shao had indeed come, just as he knew he would. After all, how could a perfect specimen like him settle for an ordinary life? He even remarked that it seemed Zhang Cheng had failed, but if his defeat had paved the way for Chen Shao's arrival, then that was enough. The man asked whether Chen Shao was ready to sacrifice himself for the great cause of human evolution. He mocked Chen Shocking, saying that he and his group were nothing more than hypocrites in disguise, and that every true leap in human progress had been achieved by trampling over corpses and wading through rivers of blood. Chen Shocking's power was a treasure sent by the heavens, and should not be wasted. But Chen Shao didn't seem to care in the slightest. He said he couldn't care less about such nonsense. He wouldn't even bother with the professor's experiments. But of all the stupid things the man had done, disturbing his peace and quiet was the worst, and for that he had to be erased. With that, Chen Shao unleashed his power on him. The professor sneered that Chen Shao was far too naive. Since he had allowed him to enter this place, he naturally had a way to make him stay. After Chen Shao's fight with Zhang Cheng, did he still have any energy left? He ordered Chen Shao to submit, promising it would spare him a great deal of pain. Chen Shao refused. The professor pressed a button, shattering several tubes in the room. Modified humans emerged, and charged at Chen Shao simultaneously. He easily dodged their attacks, and struck with his power, knocking one down. But the other two rushed in. The professor told him to stop resisting. He could make him even stronger than he already was. Chen Shao asked if he truly believed these monsters were enough to stop him. But in truth, Chen Shao knew his energy was running low. He needed to end this quickly. In the next instant, he cut the two down with a single strike, finishing the fight. He said he had thought the professor might have had some real tricks up his sleeve. Were these three abominations really all he had? It seemed Professor Lin was the naive one, having spent the last few years living for nothing. Chen Shao declared it was over, but before the professor could respond, he suddenly dropped to his knees and began coughing. He admitted that Chen Shao was impressive, but he had already transmitted all the data for the mutation serum. The seeds had been planted, and this world would only grow more interesting. That made Chen Shao slightly uneasy. As he turned to leave, the professor's assistant spoke up, saying that if he left like this, he wouldn't make it home in one piece. She told him to relax. She wasn't his enemy. She explained that the vial contained a recovery serum. It would quickly stop the bleeding and stabilize his condition. Chen Shao hesitated, unsure whether he should use it. Surprised, he questioned her. The girl insisted the medicine was safe. If he didn't use it, his wounds would become infected and he might die. He asked why he should trust her. Lin Guidong had just died suddenly, and she conveniently appeared out of nowhere offering him medicine. It was too convenient. She admitted he was right not to trust her, and didn't blame him, but there was something here he might still need. If he still had the strength, she asked him to follow her. In another room, she explained that the professor had known from the beginning that the heat wave would not end. He had hoarded everything for himself, though he constantly preached about dedicating his life to science. Deep down, he was afraid of dying. Now that he was dead, he wouldn't need any of it. She was leaving as well, and he could take whatever he wanted. Chen Shao asked why she was leaving. She explained that when she had applied to be his assistant, she truly believed he was a real scientist. Only recently had she discovered his human experiments. Even if she wasn't directly involved, she was still complicit. She was heading to a research center in the north to continue the work they should have done. If she survived, she hoped to develop a real cure, not a poison that killed people. She hoped that the next time they met, the world would be in a better state. Chen Shao searched through the supplies. They were rare items: UV-resistant clothing, antibiotics, water purification tablets. He was impressed, but it was a shame. Everything now belonged to him. He took what he wanted and saw no reason to leave the place standing. He set it on fire. Back at his apartment, he checked the thermometer. The temperature had already exceeded 58 degrees Celsius. The news reported another red alert. Temperatures had surpassed safe limits, triggering methane releases and pushing the greenhouse effect into an irreversible vicious cycle. The system informed him that he didn't have enough points and that his storage was full. He knew he needed to strengthen himself as quickly as possible. Water had become a powerful currency now, and he needed to collect a system fee. He went to meet the same guy as before. A man approached, and Chen Shao asked if he had come to trade for water. The man asked how much water he could get in exchange for goods. Chen Shao said it would easily be worth 2 bottles, but for a reasonable guy like him, he would charge only 1. The man didn't like that. Chen Shao said that since he was getting angry, the price would increase and he should thank Brother Shao because he was a true saint. Chen Shao gained 33 anger points. When the man refused to say it, Chen Shao raised the price again. Eventually, the man repeated what Chen Shao told him to say. Satisfied, Chen Shao said that next time he should bring more goods, and he'd let him trade for half a bottle. Later, Chen Shao met old Wang and asked why he was still awake. The old man explained that Lu Yun was raising her grandson alone. The child had suffered heat stroke. With water and electricity cut off, she couldn't manage, so he was bringing her water. Chen Shao told him to worry only about himself, but the old man said he couldn't bear bear to watch a child suffer. He delivered the water to the woman, who thanked him and called him a saint. The old man asked her to give some water to the boy. The woman, however, thought the old man was an idiot. He had wasted half a day just to bring 2 bottles of water. She wondered if she should cry a little more tomorrow to trick him again. After she closed the door, a bespectacled man appeared and asked what brought her here at this hour. She handed him the bottle of water and said, "This is today's tribute."